Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Those words are part of a collection of sayings with quite loose connections put together by Matthew in his Gospel. And for the hearers of Jesus, that language rang some bells. Jesus seems to be drawing on the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as the Wisdom of Sirach. Now, Sirach is in the Apocrypha. That means it didn't make it into the canon of the Bible, and that's rather a shame, because Jesus and the people he was speaking to must have been familiar with it. There are at least 6 times in Matthew's Gospel where the wisdom of Sirach seems to be quoted, and this saying about the yoke that makes life easier is just one of them. Here's a bit of Sirach chapter 6, talking about wisdom. Put your feet into her fetters, so that's into wisdom's fetters, and your neck into her collar. Bend your shoulders and carry her. Do not fret under her bonds. Come to her with all your soul, and keep her ways with all your might. Search out and seek, and she will become known to you. And when you get hold of her, do not let her go. For at last you will find the rest she gives, and she will be changed into joy for you. Then her fetters will become for you a strong defence, and her collar a glorious robe. Her yoke is a golden ornament, and her bonds a purple cord. You will wear her like a glorious robe, and put her on like a splendid crown. If you're willing, my child, you can be disciplined, and if you apply yourself, you will become wise. So that's wisdom as a way of life, a discipline that might be hard at first, but becomes part of your character, even a beautiful part, likened to jewellery and fine clothing. Now, one thing about yokes is that they are associated with work. Imagine a milkmaid balancing heavy buckets. Or better still, imagine the pair of oxen pulling a plough or a cart. The work's heavy. But the second thing about yokes is they're supposed to make the work easier, supposed to help you. A yoke helps distribute the weight of the load so that the animal doesn't get hurt and can pull the load efficiently. A third thing about yokes is they're specific. If you take a yoke for oxen and try to put it on a pair of horses, it won't fit. It will hurt the animals, and they will probably refuse to work. Working animals, whether horses, donkeys or oxen, are different sizes and shapes, and they pull differently. So they have different yokes. Even different breeds of oxen need different kinds of yoke, because their backs are a different shape. So yokes are for work. They're supposed to help you, and they're supposed to fit. So what's Jesus offering here? A life of hard work? Well, maybe, but life is like that anyway, isn't it? Life has its ups and downs, its hardships and burdens. Some of those burdens are imposed on us, and some of them are very personal to us. Let's go and think about our reading from Romans for a moment. And there's St. Paul making hard work of an inevitable aspect of the human condition, that we can have great intentions and utterly fail in living up to them. We often can't do the right things even though we want to. Martin Luther in the early 1500s was finding the same. He wanted to be a good monk and do good things, and became somewhat fixated on his sins. It was said he sometimes spent 8 hours in the confession box, wearing out whichever unfortunate priest was on duty. And yet he still wasn't free from sin. What a relief it was for him to go on and study the epistles of Paul and find the verse that's in Romans and Ephesians, "The just shall live by faith." Salvation doesn't depend on me being sinless, thank God. It depends on the grace of God. So Jesus offers the invitation, "Come and take my yoke upon you." It's an invitation, and it's up to you if you respond. In the days that Jesus was speaking, so many people lived in crushing poverty. It's estimated that more than 90% of people were living at subsistence level. There was incredibly high taxation and a lot of insecurity. And he didn't think much of some of the Pharisees, whom he said would tie up heavy loads and lay them on men's shoulders. But they themselves are unwilling to move them with so much as a finger. That's in Matthew 23. They were happy to lay down rules for other people to live by, but not really think about the impact of those rules on ordinary people. I'm sometimes amazed by the spiritual burdens that are imposed on people by some branches of Christianity. There are churches in some places that will only use the authorised King James Bible in the church. Okay, that's fine. But I also encountered a Christian group where they not only insist on using that version of the Bible, they will only speak in all the time, every day, they will only speak in authorised version language. They believe it to be God's language, the language God intends us to speak. I don't doubt their sincerity, but I wonder why they need to make life more difficult for themselves. But then again, do you remember Naaman, the Syrian army captain who had leprosy and came to Elisha for healing? He was told to wash in the Jordan 7 times, and he didn't want to. But he would have been prepared to perform some heroic feat. Is there some level at which we sometimes feel the need to do something heroic? Is there somehow more virtue in doing something difficult than doing something easy? Yet Jesus asks us to take his yoke and learn from him, because he's lowly and humble, and find rest for our souls. And that's a work of love, compassion, and sharing Jesus. Because when we take on that yoke that Jesus offers, we find it fits. It fits us. And it helps us because it's easy and it's light. And we find that whatever our work in life might be, we're not alone. We have a partner. And that partner, yoked alongside us, sharing the work, pulling the load, is Jesus himself. Let's read those verses again, and this time I'm reading from the Message. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Amen.